Hello and welcome to Africa Live on CCTV News. I'm Beatrice Marshall in Nairobi. Also coming up on the program, face of death, the dark side of the raging violence in the Central African Republic. And sizing up the opponents, Nigeria, Ghana and Cameroon land in tough groups after the World Cup draw. We begin in South Africa, where preparations are getting underway for the official state funeral for former President Nelson Mandela on December the 15th, and South Africans have begun paying tribute in their own way. Angela Coppola reports from Houghton in Johannesburg.
It's the weekend and school holidays for many children in South Africa. Families began arriving here early on Saturday morning to pay their last respects. They came from far and wide, all with the common purpose. The Chidara family came from Centurion, a suburb some 40 kilometers away. Advocate Chidara says he has Madiba to thank for opening his doors.
It's quite an amazing moment that some of us never even thought that we could find ourselves in the position that I am now.
I came to bring flowers for Mandela.
I'm happy because I've been in a place where there's men of leaders that have been here.
I was surprised, but then, just that a lot of people came to pledge their support.
The Clare family live a few kilometers away. They were lucky enough to have all the privileges that came with being white before Mandela was released. But they are unified in their sadness.
I'm feeling very emotional, and it's like a calm over South Africa, and I'm thinking that I hope this is going to bring us together more as a nation once again. You know, when he first was released, and when we were all so nervous as white South Africans.
It's really sad that he's been with us, and he's gone now.
I can't believe that this is really happening, that we're all just here and I see all these flowers and that he's just gone now.
A Pretoria-based father and daughter made the journey to Houghton for a very simple reason.
It's best for us and to show that we respected the greatest man who has ever walked the planet.
When I found out that he died, in the inside it just didn't feel right. I felt something different and I felt crying in the inside.
We're outside the Mandela House where the crowds keep coming in. It's a Saturday morning and people are making an effort to get through the police cordons and all the parking issues and walking down the road quietly, thinking about Mandela, thinking about his life, thinking about what he went through and the fact that he passed away on Thursday evening. This is going to carry on for the whole week. As you can hear, the crowd picks up a bit, they pick up a song and then they come down again. But some of the messages that we're looking at here go along the lines of, you're still in our hearts, Tata, and you've never gone. Rest in peace, rare, precious, eternal in our hearts. I love you, Tata. Thank you. The flowers are here. The emotion is quite clear. It's quite obvious. And it's going to carry on like this until his official burial in Kunu on Sunday. I'm Angelo Coppola for CCTV in Johannesburg.
Well, members of the Mandela family have held a news conference in Auckland Park in Johannesburg. In their first statement since his passing, the Mandela family says they have lost a great man, the son of the soil. The official spokesperson of their family, the retired Lieutenant General Themba Templeton Matanzima, expressed gratitude for the support worldwide. Accompanied by Mandela's grandson Ndaba, Matanzima added that the family will stay guided by the values Mandela lived for.
As a family, we are humbled by the messages of condolences and support we continue to receive from governments and people of the world. Clearly, this once more underlies the simple truth that Madiba was not just a citizen of South Africa and the broader African continent, but a global citizen.
Well, CCTV's Guy Henderson is standing by for us in Houghton, the home of Nelson Mandela in a Johannesburg suburb. He joins us live now from Johannesburg. Guy, what can you tell us?
Well, just down the road from where I'm standing now Hundreds of people, and many thousands through today and yesterday on Friday, have continued to flock to the Mandela family home in Houghton in the suburb of Johannesburg to continue to pay their respects and say their thanks to Nelson Mandela, the former president who passed away on Thursday evening. I'm now just a few hundred meters down the road from the Mandela home. This is the Nelson Mandela Foundation's Centre of Memory. It once served as Nelson Mandela's office. He would be here every single day. And the centre here is now in charge of preserving the memory and preserving the legacy of Nelson Mandela. Now I'm joined by its CEO, Mr. Sello Hatang. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'm sure it's been a very busy day. Let's just talk a little bit about, you are a South African. You are a man who has spent several years absorbed in working on the legacy and the memory of one of the greatest leaders that humanity has seen, I suppose. What are your emotions in the days after Mr. Mandela has passed away?
Well, I think all of us are still coming to terms with the fact that Mandela is no more. I think even though you knew this day was coming, one was prepared that this day will hit us, but one was not prepared for this great feeling of loss that one is feeling at the moment. But I'm always conscious that Madiba's family needs greater support, much more support than all of us need, and that's why the Nelson Mandela Foundation is there to support the family.
And it seems as though millions of South Africans are there to support the Mandela family now as well, and it seems like it's almost a celebration rather than somber.
I think it's important that it become that it be a celebration, because here's a man who has played his part. He gave South Africa and the world all he could, and this is a time for us to then say we thank you. And you don't thank someone by being somber. You thank them in celebration. And while we sad for the loss, but we're happy that Madiba lived, and he lived for as long as he did.
Now, just to talk a little bit about the work that is done here at the centre, I guess that there will always be those historic moments, so many historic moments throughout Mr. Mandela's life, from the Rivonia trial to his release from prison, the inauguration, countless examples of historic, famous moments that there will always be, I guess, relatively accessible to access the archive material and sort of gather the archive in that respect. What about the things that, the smaller moments, the private moments, I guess the moments that made Mandela the man he was, the character? How do you find those moments, and how do you preserve that kind of legacy?
I think what we tried to do in terms of the exhibition, and you've walked through and you have a sense of the exhibition that we put up, and you'll see that what we did was to not just concentrate on Nelson Mandela, the prisoner, Nelson Mandela, the political figure, but to go beyond that. What we've done there is to give you a sense of the man. We always talk about his humility, we always talk about those characters that make him human. And what we've tried to present, both in what Madiba himself says, in what he writes, but later on we'll also present what people say about him. There's a story that is told by one of his comrades who was on Robben Island with him. Says that, you know, we always talk about service, Nelson Mandela who gives service, but you never understand that service when until you see him coming through to your cell when you've suffered ill health, and he then takes your bucket and he goes and cleans it and gives it back to you. And I think that's the kind of thing that we want to present. The Nelson Mandela who's not just a public figure, the icon, but the human being, the person that you and I can reach up to and can see ourselves being.
A fantastic character, an amazing man, and one of the great leaders of the 20th century.
Of our time, yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, we've got 8 days of official memorial ahead of us now. huge number of events starting tomorrow, Sunday, which will be an official day of mourning. There'll be multi-faith services taking place across South Africa, very possibly across the world as well. A series of events next week, leading up, of course, finally to the state funeral, which will happen next Sunday.
All right, CCTV's Guy Henderson joining us there from Johannesburg. Thank you. While the world continues to mourn Nelson Mandela, and CCTV's Famida Miller now brings us this report as South Africans and many across the world continue to pay tribute to Nelson Mandela.
On any other Saturday, Nelson Mandela Square would be filled with shoppers, but today it's become a place of tribute for the late hero. People have been lining up all morning to sign a book of condolence, leave flowers or any other tribute they can, or simply just to be here to show their respect. People say it's a time of deep sadness and grieving, but also a time of overwhelming pride. Here we speak to Maria, who's come from Diepkloof, and she says this is a time to show appreciation for the leadership that Nelson Mandela showed. Maria, how do you feel today?
I'm feeling sad, overwhelmed, and really, it's really a sad day. We just can't overcome this feeling. And paying our respects, I think that's the only thing we can do so far. We're happy that he's rested, finally, and we're going to miss him. He was a great man.
South Africans have known for months this moment was coming. Even so, it's a very difficult time.
We are truly saddened to hear of his passing, and when we woke up in the morning, we heard that he was gone. As an individual, I was hurt by it. Obviously, we prepared, but it's still a shock to us.
He played such an important role in our lives. He was so important for this country. I don't think we can pay enough tributes, but at least we can do our little part.
In the coming days, the nation will prepare to say a final goodbye. Famida Miller, CCTV, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Nelson Mandela's death is being mourned across South Africa and beyond, but in Cape Town, where he spent most of his life in jail, they are mourning in a different way. CCTV's Travis Andrews is in Cape Town and tells us more.
In Cape Town, Nelson Mandela's life was celebrated through an interfaith service held at the Grand Parade, the historic location where he delivered his first speech as a free man. Flowers and cards adorn the wall of remembrance. These little ones make their way to pay their respects to Madiba. At Cape Town's cathedral, the story is the same, paying homage to Madiba. Some ANC leaders express sadness at his passing, but are also quick to praise him as a leader.
Obviously, much as we know that he's been sick and he's been old, it's very difficult to accept the news when the news arrived at us, because we know what type of a leader he has been, that he has been a leader in the difficult times in our struggle. He was a leader of the liberation movement. He was a leader that has been all the time working to unite South African black and white.
Nelson Mandela was known as a unifier. Even in death, he managed to bring people together. Some South Africans, though, have mixed emotions about his passing.
The nation is mourning because we have lost a father, we have lost an icon, but we rejoice because God, he is safe in the arms of God now.
His whole life that he had is an example of how a person must be humble and have always peace in the heart for the next one.
It's time for celebration. He's done what he had to do. We're free. Thanks to him, we had unity and it's peace all over us.
While his death will no doubt reverberate around the world, in the place he once called home, his self-pursuit of a free and democratic South Africa will never be forgotten. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years of his life in jail right here in Cape Town. His self-sacrifice has been celebrated throughout the city. For many South Africans, not just a great leader was lost, but the father of the nation. Travis Andrews, CCTV, Cape Town.
And we'll take a short break now on Africa Live, but still ahead on the program. Face of death, the dark side of the raging violence in the Central African Republic. watching Africa Live. France has rushed troops into the Central African Republic, but violence between Muslim and Christian militias continue unabated. Despite major gun battles easing off, residents and rights groups say there have been a wave of killing in neighborhoods. The Red Cross says it has collected 281 bodies from 2 days of violence in the capital Bangui, but many more had been killed. CCTV's Kate Parkinson captured exclusive graphic footage of the killings in Bangui, which we would like to caution may be disturbing to our viewers.
France is certainly making its presence known. Troops patrol the streets, securing communities. As warplanes fly low in the sky in a show of force. And yet the killings still continue. These Christian men are lynched by men who appear to be part of the mostly Muslim ex-Seleka rebel group. We hear gunshots before we're chased away. In another Christian community where ex-Seleka militia still roam the streets, we ask people if they feel safer now the French are here.
No. There is no peace at all. As soon as the French leave, they're killing people. They're even slitting their throats. Even in hospitals, they're assassinating people.
The 1,200-strong force will be at full capacity by Sunday. But with the mission due to last only 6 months, many are asking if it will be enough to stop the bloodshed. Back in the area where the men were lynched, the situation is calmer. The French troops are here now, but they arrived too late to save the men we saw, and their bodies now lie at the side of the road. It's a sign of just how serious the security situation is here in the Central African Republic and how much work the French forces have to do to try and stem the violence and stop what some people are calling the start of a genocide. Kate Parkinson, CCTV, Bangui, in the Central African Republic.
The death of Nelson Mandela has weighed heavily on the minds of representatives of more than 50 African countries gathered in Paris. The meeting was called to discuss peace and security, and in particular, France's military intervention in the Central African Republic. CCTV's Jack Barton reports from the French capital, Paris.
Images of Nelson Mandela dominated the opening of the African Peace and Security Summit in Paris. Representatives of more than 50 African states, along with the head of the UN and senior EU officials, paused for a minute of silence. French President François Hollande then began what became a series of tributes to Mandela, praising what a single person can achieve for the sake of good if sufficiently determined.
Nelson Mandela managed to change more than South Africa. He accelerated the course to the world. He was armed only with his principles and an unshakable will.
It was a sobering reminder of responsibilities for France, which has just entered its second African intervention this year. And for African leaders, who along with France and the EU want to see peacekeeping in the continent become a job for the African Union's fledgling Rapid Response Unit, which all hope will be up and running by 2015.
What is currently happening in Bangui after Mali should push us to think. I hope we will recognize this and that we will leave the summit having agreed between Africans to provide the means by which we resolve conflicts in Africa.
Libya also topped the agenda, with its porous borders acting as an easy transit point for weapons, fueling many conflicts. Delegates also discussed the challenges of piracy and counter-terrorism, as well as the fact security requires not only soldiers and guns, but development, education, and an end to poverty. Saturday's session focuses on just that, with trade and investment topping the agenda. While Nelson Mandela's death may have overshadowed this summit, it has not proved a distraction. Rather, it has refocused delegates on the task at hand, which is to bring peace and stability not just to one country, but the entire African continent. Jack Barton, CCTV, Paris.
Let's take a look at other stories we're following for you at this hour. Now, on December the 1st, Egypt's new draft constitution was passed by a 50-member committee. All the 247 items have been adopted after rounds of disputes and discussions. The interim president, Adli Mansour, has accepted it and will announce the date for a referendum soon. According to the rule, the referendum will take place in a month, probably in January. A lawyer in Cairo has told CCTV his opinion of the new draft.
In my opinion, the 2012 constitution has a religious feature, and the 100-member committee which prepared the constitution was religious. So the final aim was to produce a religious country. However, the current constitution is definitely different. It is more balanced. The 50 members are all representative of different groups. They seek for their interests from the constitution and gain their position in the state according to their due, either the judges or the disabled. So I think that this constitution is civilian. Let's just say that the current constitution is better than the last one. But the situation in the country could not be improved by the constitutions only. If we take a look at the 1971 constitution, we find greater chapters about rights and the freedom. But if we focus on the people's life during that period, we could find states of emergency, torture and military codes.